probably going to stick to that for a while. This is being taped. Hopefully we won't be mooned this meeting. Last meeting we were. I did put the link on Facebook and I sent it out. Hey, Kim. I sent it out as well. The question was, how is everybody holding up with the coronavirus? Wendy mentioned that she hadn't skipped a beat, but wanted to get your feedback.
I feel like it's a roller coaster. I feel like it's a roller coaster for everyone. I've been on, my video has been off because my son, he just started back daycare yesterday. So poor thing, he is like exhausted because he's playing with his friends a lot again. And so like 1.5-year-old, they don't know that they're just tired. So I may be in and out today.
All right. Are you working? You're a nurse. Are you working in between or biding your time?
The hospital that I work at, it's elective surgery, so they're slowly going back. So I haven't been back to the hospital yet, but I am starting, I have started up a new gig at hospice.
Oh, good.
So I'm working with hospice patients as needed. So I have started working with that. But yeah, so we're just still waiting for the hospital to come back to where it was before.
Are you hearing any information from your perspective on light at the end of the tunnel, or is that way too premature to even ask?
I have no idea. Honestly, I feel like it's kind of a political thing now, so I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's really, about, I don't know. It's hard to tell, it really is.
I think that's the answer across the board. Is it's really hard to tell. I just an update from my perspective. My phone's been ringing with anxiety, depression, hospitalization on the anxiety and depression. Connected this woman who used to live here, now lives in Littleton, Colorado. She called Brain Injury Association Louisiana, New Orleans, to get to me, just because she ran away from a bad situation and ended up 2 towns over in a hi Amy, in a mental institution where there was permissions and I can only talk for a certain amount of time, but managed to get her and her family connected. And of course, she called me and texted me several other times. But my job's done. I've connected her. She's where she needs to be. Anxiety is across the board. If you look on Facebook, you can look pretty much everywhere with the anxiety. The rest of and the anxiety surrounds itself because brain injury and 80-year-olds are the target for this virus because we all have compromised immune systems. That's what I understand anyway. Jessica, did you need to say something? You got your hand raised. Maybe you just got happy with your fingers.
I want to say something.
Yes, please. Oh,
Thank you. It's me, Martin. Thank you, Paul and everybody, for having a meeting. I'm very surprised to hear what I'm feeling inside. I'm just surprised because I don't hear anybody. I don't do social media, but I do a lot of studying on the web. And what I hear is so scary about censorship and where the truth is completely hidden and censored and taken out of YouTube. And so that's difficult. And at the same time, so thank you for reminding me about our fragility with brain injury, because I see my youngest sister, who is the most brain injured, having a very hard time in Brussels in an apartment. And at the same time, it's 2 months that my ex-husband died and my daughter has a 5-month-old baby. So tomorrow we're both driving our own way to reopen the house for the second time for her. For me, it's the first time, and to help. And and to start emptying a house full of whatever. We call it trash. So I am, and I'm surprised to hear your words because I thought I was the only one feeling that. So thank you.
You're welcome. Best of luck to you.
I have a dog. Well, I adopted her.
Very cute. You inadvertently muted yourself, Martine.
All right.
There you are. You have a new dog?
Well, I adopted it from my ex-husband. She's a golden meadow dog. She's 13
cool.
years old.
So does she bark in French?
She runs to the park all the time without me knowing, and I have to run behind her with my purse, and I catch her only at the park. Oh, no, the Cajuns in Golden Meadow only speak English. Our generation. The older Cajuns speak French, nothing. He was our generation.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
So sorry to hear about that, Martine. So much going on. Wow, that's a lot going on.
It is for everybody. It is, and I know it is for many, many, many people, but it is. Thank you, Nichole.
Yeah, no, you're right. The emotions are intense for everyone.
I just got a text. A woman that I coached in the Washington D.C. area on and I didn't realize I was even doing it. Tony is her name, and I see her every year, and she's a little bit older than me and maybe in her 60s, and she's got a support dog. And if you have a minute, say a prayer for her. She's going into surgery. She can barely breathe. She was diagnosed with this virus, and there's a lot we don't know about. So she was going into surgery today, and she had no idea. That doesn't mean she doesn't know what she's doing. That just means that she couldn't remember at the point, I'm sure. Tony is an advocate. Hey, Kurt. Tony is an advocate from a Jewish perspective. So she's very Jewish. She's very involved in our Jewish community in the Washington, D.C. area. So, and she had to separate from Bud, her awesome dog. So I'm sure that there's prayers for her, but if you can include it, be grateful. Brings a lump to your throat real quick. Kurt, can you hear us? Okay, you're on mute. So if you want to say something, go ahead and show me your hand. Julia, did you want to say something? Jump on in.
I was just going to say that especially during this time and how much stress, I've been amazed at how much, Rhonda's going to laugh, sleeping better has helped me in getting more sleep at night. I was sleeping probably, Rhonda's going to say 3 hours a night. I'm going to say more like 5. But the last 2 nights, I've slept 9 hours one night and 10 hours the next night.
That's awesome.
And just how much that's helped me just chill out and relax. Nothing more than just good unnatural sleep. Because we have over 7,000 cells in our brain that the only time they regenerate and recuperate is during sleep. And so we need that sleep. And if we're not getting it, we need to figure out what to do to better help ourselves get that, because it's free.
Yeah.
It's easily said free, but it's not always attainable after a brain injury, because we want to wake up and try and get our brain back or something. But thank you for sharing. Kurt, check in with us. We haven't heard from you in a while. Press the unmute button. Say some vowels and consonants.
Let's see. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, been staying busy, just still fighting some ups and downs, trying to get disability going, hanging out with the kids, doing some gardening, trying to relax. About to set up the hammock to, speaking of sleep, to actually sleep outside tonight, trying to get some nature in.
Yeah.
besides that, that's about it.
The one silver lining from this is the weather that we've had over the past 2 weeks. It's almost like we're not in Louisiana.
Indeed, indeed. It has been nice.
You aren't, I don't know if you were on, but I've seen an increase in calls for help over the last 3 weeks. It was halfway through the 6-week period where people just started calling me, asking for support, asking for understanding. What are you hearing? What are we hearing? And interestingly enough, I was listening to a radio app that I have on my phone, and it scans stations from all over the country. I'm sorry, all over the world. And it gave me solace. It gave me some comfort to know that in tiny islands, in large areas, small cities, Ireland to Austria, they're all saying the same thing: cough into your arm, wash your hands. It's all uniform. So thanks everybody for coming. We will have somebody that will log on late, but I wanted to get just to see your faces and know that Jessica's on. I can't see anything, but I know she's on. That's a joke because we see everything visual. When you're dialing on the phone, we can hear you. So just raise your hand again if you need to say something. Boost your immune system. Sleep's good. But as Ms. Vaughn said, boost your immune system. Elderberry syrup, like Kurt makes, is really good. Piggyback on with that with a zinc and vitamin C, and you're cooking with gas. But welcome, Nichole. I'm going to read off what you wrote because it's awesome, and I'm not going to remember all of it at the same time, so bear with me. I'm going to read this to you. This month our focus turns to children and keeping their brains healthy with simple and practical things as caretakers we can do in our daily routines, especially during moments of conflict, intense emotion, or difficult life circumstances. For example, this coronavirus. This is because emotional trauma can be every bit as significant when it comes to brain and nervous system health as physical trauma. Some of our worst brain injuries develop over time from unresolved painful situations in childhood, and the damage can be seen in our brain scans. But we don't need to shelter our children from difficult challenges. Just help them be resilient, as we can do that by understanding the emotional immune system. Dr. Standford, Nichole is with us. She's an assistant professor at UL, drawing on the background of, big word, neurolinguistics and socio-political theory, writes and trains teachers about how best teaching and learning practices. She has written about language prejudice in a way of keeping ethnic Americans marginalized and powerless in Good God, But You Smart, Language Prejudice, and Upwardly Mobile Cajuns. That's the name of the book. And she is currently writing about best parenting practices in teaching kids to dissent, raising a generation for social change. Nichole is a native Louisianian. She's from Opelousas, St. Leonard Parish, who first learned about bilingual aphasia as a teenage candy striper working with elderly patients who were recovering from strokes and other brain injuries and could no longer speak English, only Louisiana French. She has been fascinated with brain and the nervous system function ever since. So welcome, Nichole.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, y'all. It's good to see your faces. I'm unmuting myself, which means that you may catch a little of the movie in the background. My 3 kids are eating their spaghetti and watching a movie right now. And occasionally I'll probably get a little too loud and you'll hear some sounds. It may sound like shrieking or violence. Don't worry, it's just a movie. I'm an excellent mother. Actually, I make just as many mistakes as everybody else. So let me not set myself up as an expert. Let me say that really I'm the expert on this because I've made so many mistakes and I've learned from them. So maybe I've made more than you. Maybe we've made about the same, and we'll be able to help each other. So like Paul said, tonight we're talking about what parents and caretakers need to know to help the brains under their care work best. My focus is keeping our kids' brains healthy, but we'll also touch on some ideas in here for conflict resolution, discipline, and the general flow of life with kids, because these moments of tension and conflict are precisely the ways that some of the recent parenting strategies have kind of hacked up kids' neural networks. Those moments, probably where everyone's kind of at a loss and you're not sure what to do. Yeah, so we'll cover that. So let me get into this stuff, some information. And by the way, I'm going to save plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So if you have some questions, make sure you jot them down or make a note for yourself so we can come back to that.
Good idea.
According to a large-scale clinical study called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, ACEs, living through 4 or more traumatic events in childhood guarantees we're going to have a chronic illness as adults. This is because emotional trauma looks the same in the brain as physical trauma. What we're learning about the way that the brain works with the nervous system is that you can't talk about one without talking about the other. It's like if you went to a doctor who says, I only treat the right leg. You're going to have to, if you're learning about the brain, you're going to be doing stuff with the nervous system. They're fully integrated and they need to stay balanced. Chronic illnesses result from problems with the nervous system, and that means problems with the brain. If you want to save your kids some time and trouble later with illnesses, doctors, therapy, chronic pain, Xanax, and all the other joys that come with adulthood, we need to do some things to promote neuroplasticity. That is brain growth, brain health, adaptability after injury or trauma. This is basically another word for resilience, being able to bounce back. We can't possibly shelter our children from everything, and we don't want to, but we can teach them resilience. Or you can go ahead and start investing in your therapy fund for your kids when they get older. All right, so I'm going to give we're going to talk about 2 main things, and then at the end I'm going to summarize some other things. And the suggestions I'm giving are mostly geared towards emotional health, but this works for physical health as well too, like traumatic brain injury, if they've actually taken a blow to the head, because neuroplasticity works the same in both cases. Alrighty, so number 1, goal of life, stay playful. So the closest I can come to hacking the meaning of life is that we're meant to play. We're meant to balance between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic system. Strike a balance between relaxation and challenge. You know, my background is in education and teaching, and the goal for the best learning conditions for any kids is called, this guy, if you know your psychology, Vygotsky, he talks about the zone of proximal development. It's the sweet spot between boredom, like you don't have enough challenge, and being overwhelmed, having too much challenge. So you want to find that spot, and it's kind of a curve that rises, and you just watch and adjust as you go. And especially as the parent or the caretaker, you can spot when it's time to raise the challenge. But a lot of this is tied to hunter-gatherer societies where humans were studied under less artificial conditions, I guess, and less or more cohesive structures. And by the way, let me just interrupt myself to say, it's weird to talk to a quiet screen. I don't think I've ever taught online like this. Like, I'm looking around to hear people coughing and like, yeah, like I need a little noise. Could some of y'all cut up in the back of the class or something?
Kurt and I will exchange notes. And you can exchange notes. Yeah, interrupt me every now and then. Yeah, I feel like I'm
like I'm just talking to a computer instead of people. I
we
see your
hear-
faces, but
We hear you.
yeah, it's weird.
You're doing great.
Well, I guess I should prepare myself for the fall in case I'm going to be teaching all online. All right. So,
I think this is probably one of our new normals in today's society, is talking over voice over IP. Over the internet, using voice over IP. It's just it's here.
Okay, so in hunter-gatherer societies, some theorists call it fiercely enforced egalitarianism, because a tendency of humans and mammals in general is to dominate. And if you're going to work in a collaborative society and share the power, you have to fiercely enforce the egalitarianism. So if anyone begins to dominate, you have to pull them back down. So dominating behaviors like bullying, competitiveness, or just trying to boss people around. We see this all the time. It's really interesting to see it in dogs. Not the competitive behaviors, but the playing. Have you heard of the play bow? Is anyone familiar with that?
Tell us about that.
Excuse me. I will, Paul. I'd be happy to. So the way that dogs, the main goal is to play and keep it from slipping into fighting. I think that's a great metaphor for life. Play, keep it from slipping into dominating or taking things personally and trying to get someone back, revenge, or just bullying in general. Dogs signal of vulnerability to each other as they do a play bow, where their hind legs are straight, but they bow in the front and they lift their neck to show that they're vulnerable. And so the other dog goes, oh, okay, we're playing, we're not fighting. There's no show of dominance here. And they can keep on rough playing, like rough housing like that. But when one gets guarded and won't show its neck anymore, that's a signal this has slipped into fighting. I love that, and that's kind of the big signs with kids all the time. That's what I'm doing with my kids a lot. I'm like, it's fine if you're playing, but if it turns into fighting, be cautious, and our main rule is play nice or play alone. Remove yourself or expect to be removed if you can't play nice. If you can't make up in the moment, you're taking a break, you're playing alone until you can come back and rejoin the group. All right, so that is a lot of information about playing, but the reason that play is so important is because biologically it puts us in that zone of flow where we're scientifically proven to get our best results from our brains for learning, for neuroplasticity, for improving our health. Striking a balance between the parasympathetic system, rest and digest, or which is also called feed and breed, and the sympathetic system, fight or flight, which also has fawning and freezing. And I can go into that later if anyone needs to know more about that. The goal is to not get stuck in either of those, but to be able to move effortlessly in and out of those as much as is needed. There's a word for that, and I couldn't remember it earlier. Paul, do you know what it is?
Segwaying?
No, it's some word that they use at the Nerve Health Institute, and how important it is to be able to just be flexible and go into either whenever you need it.
That sounds great to me. I'm not pulling up the word, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. There's an important word for it. It's probably 11 letters or more.
And I probably have to pay $1.50 for it too, but
you might. So the goal is to stay in a state of play. That's it would be, so number one, what can you do to improve your kids' brain health? Keep them in a state of play as much as possible. Learning in a playful way, doing their chores in a playful way, making it into a game. I don't mean spoonful of sugar. I don't mean that. I don't mean like rewarding your kids for everything, but make it collaborative, not a dominating thing. Everyone's cleaning or else, or there's a consequence, You just make it like, okay, well, it looks like it is cleaning time. What's going to be our cleaning music today? And we're all going to do it together because we all want to sit down at the table together. We're not going to do some punishment like, if you don't finish cleaning your room, then you don't get to eat supper with us. you know, just make it a playful kind of thing. Keep life playful, keep rebounding, balance yourself. If a curveball comes at you and you miss it, get it the next time. Just keep playing. If you don't get it in that inning, if you strike out, keep on playing, try it again. If you mess up, give yourself the same grace, stay playful. And that's super vague, and I can give you some more concrete examples at the end, but I just wanted to like establish that as a principle. Stay playful. Okay, now let's get down to the nitty gritty. Here is pretty much the most important thing you can do for your kids' brain health. I think I just kind of wanted to plug in the stay playful thing because yes, it's biologically proven to be important for brain health, but also it's just so important for life and for all the family interactions, for all the parenting things. Try not to fall into fighting. And when you slip into fighting, just give yourself a break and come back. All right, so here we go. The most important thing. In that the ACE study, you're guaranteed to get a chronic illness, right? If you experience 4 or more hard life events, which could be the loss of a loved one, divorce. There's my kids yelling happily. Gosh, y'all could name, I'm drawing a blank. You know, all the things that could happen in life. Poverty even. Why am I drawing a blank on hard life?
Like those, you know, but like for me, I've had 2 brain surgeries that the kids have gone through. I know that's been hard on them.
Right. Yes. A parent with chronic illness, a parent with an injury, their own injuries. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yep.
Or just a stressed out parent, all kinds of, and of course, abuse. Anyone else want to volunteer something?
Even now, like the loss of a job.
Loss of a job. Yeah.
A lot of us are going through that.
The confusion in the world, the panic that so many of us are feeling, the fear, they're feeling that.
The folks that have lost their normal, they've lost their groove, they've seemingly lost their groove, and they've got to rally big time because I'm used to this at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm used to this at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm used to this on Friday afternoon. I'm used to it. And we've had 6 weeks of not used to anything.
And what qualifies as a trauma is anything that literally doesn't make sense. It's something that it kicks up your fight or flight defense, your reaction. You need to defend yourself in some way, and you can never integrate it into your frontal cortex, the prefrontal cortex. Every night when you go to bed, you have these dreams. They seem to make no sense, but that's you categorizing all the dreams that you had during the day. And they're getting filed away. They're being integrated into your frontal cortex so that you can have a life narrative. You can have an identity. It fits in. You understand the meaning of your life. But something that doesn't make sense can't integrate, and it stays stuck in the nervous system and becomes a chronic illness. All right, so the one mitigating factor for this is to have one stable adult in the kid's life who says that's the right thing to feel, who gives the kid permission to finish feeling whatever they're feeling. So that's what I was talking about in the video before. I don't know if you caught it, but and something I mentioned in the little blurb that went out before this talk. The emotional immune system, the way it works, and the way we understand now when we get a cold, a pathogen enters your body. You want to let yourself process it out. Let yourself develop the symptoms. Don't suppress the symptoms. Let yourself get a fever. Let yourself get a runny nose or diarrhea, whatever, because that's going to help purge it from your system. That's going to help you process it through, and it won't get stuck and turn into a terrible infection. Same thing with a difficult situation in life. It enters your field, and just instinctively, we already know the right emotions to feel to process it out. But in many parenting styles, we stifle our kids and say, you're not allowed to feel that. You're not allowed to respond that way. Actually, you need to feel this way. You need to look on the bright side. You need to cheer up. Don't focus on that. Focus on this. And don't even think about it. Don't think about the bad thing that happened. And we block our kids from processing the negative thing that happened. That's why the one mitigating factor in the ACEs, the ACE study, is that is one stable adult who just says, you feel the right thing, or it's totally normal to feel that way, or I would feel that way too. And it just gives the kid permission to finish feeling that. Okay, simple enough, right? Like I said, simple, okay, but it may not always be easy in the moment. When you're used to telling your kid, hey, we don't get angry like that in this family, or whatever you do, that's when it would be hard. So it's like you kind of have to give yourself a mantra going forward, whatever my kid feels is the right thing to feel. And while we're on the topic, we all have an inner child. We all have bodies that we're kind of like taking care of the way we would a child. And you're gonna have to do the same thing for yourself. You're gonna have to say, whatever I feel is the right thing to feel right now. Instead of, oh God, I'm such an idiot. Oh, I can't believe, why am I even sad about that? Why am I getting caught up with that? Ugh, I can't believe what a wuss I am. Or what's my body up to now? God, my body's betraying me, or whatever. You know, you're gonna have to be able to say, well, I guess that's the right thing to feel right now. I should have a stomach ache. There is a good reason for it. All right, so emotions tell us messages. I'm gonna just talk a little bit more about emotions. No emotion is bad, not even rage. I'm looking at my notes right now. Oh yeah, there's a book I recommend strongly for parenting. How to talk to kids so they'll listen, and how to listen so that kids will talk. Wish I had it so I could show you. It's yellow if you're looking for it on Amazon. And they give a few scenarios about what you feel like as an adult. Let's say you get laid off, and then there are all these, they run into a friend, and it represents a different parenting strategy. So you get laid off, and you don't want to talk to your higher purpose friend who says, well, everything happens for a reason. Got laid off, so you should just be grateful for it. And you're like, okay, I'm just not ready to talk about that yet. And then you run into your bright side friend who says, well, at least you're not as bad off as Sherry. So then you're not allowed to feel your feelings again. Or the parenting friend who says, well, maybe you deserved it. Maybe you can learn a good lesson from this. So once again, you're being blocked from feeling your feelings. None of those people feels good to talk to. And so as parents, we can empathize because we know it's not fun to get those kind of responses. So we can listen to our kids and just say, yeah, I'd feel that way too. Yeah, I've had situations like that and I felt that way too. Let me chat about some emotions. Anger and rage mean that a boundary has been violated. Either someone's trying to control you or you're trying to control something you don't have authority over. So it's a good message if the kid is having anger. You don't have to suppress it. They can feel it. Just, you know that Bible verse, feel your anger, but don't be angry, but don't sin in your anger. So as long as you're not crossing someone's boundaries by calling names, yelling, interrupting, okay, yeah, you can feel anger, that's fine. Sadness or grief means you're processing or letting something go. It's the equivalent of pooping. Don't stop your kids from feeling sad because you will make them emotionally constipated and very uptight. You know those people who walk around, they're like, you say, how you doing today? And they're like, fine, I'm fine. Yeah. And they're a little uptight in life. There are probably people who can't feel their sadness. Frustration, that means there's a block here. Try something new. Confusion means there's some false information here. What's the source? Don't trust that source anymore. Don't drink that water anymore. Don't eat those berries. Don't listen to that information anymore. Happiness, that's the feedback is good. Continue to go in this direction. All systems go. All right, so that's just a few things about how emotions can be helpful. And I'm mentioning those because if you're home with your kids and they have an intense emotion and you're not sure what to do, you can just rest assured that every emotion they feel is correct, even if it's personally offensive to you, even if you need to take a break. I have a screamer in my house, and when he's screaming, which to me is invasive, hurts, I kind of have a brainstem reflex when anyone's screaming at me to just get it away. Oh, what is it? So if he's screaming, we have a protocol. He has to go in a room. The door shuts until he can stop screaming. He's welcome to come out anytime if he needs a hug. But the sadness or anger or whatever he's feeling, that's not wrong. Whatever. If he's needing something from me, fine, I'll give it. not if he's screaming. It's absolutely fine to have limits, but just allow the emotion. All right, I think I got off. Oh, yeah, Paul?
I've seen that when I was dropping something off at your house, and I really wish I would have learned that at, what was it, 5, 6, 7 years old. Your son just toddled on into his room, and I was like, what's going on? She's like, he's going to finish feeling what he's feeling. I was like, that was never in my house. So
were you just not allowed to feel your feelings?
No, not in my way.
Mm-hmm.
It was on somebody else's terms.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been my mom, could have been my brother. I have choices. I have 4 brothers and sisters, and they're all older than me. So this is not the way you do it. The way you do it is the way I do it, Paul. No, it's not.
Yeah. Or people will tell you what your emotions mean. They'll say, you're just trying to get attention, or you're faking it. When you're, yeah. Or those are crocodile tears. I hear parents say that a lot. Or you're okay, get up. Instead of, that's gaslighting. That's serious. You're telling your kid is crying, they have pain, and you go, you're lying, you're just faking it. I don't know many, well, anyway, if you want to have a trusting relationship with your kids, and if you basically just want to help them trust their emotions and move through trauma, it's vital to say, are you okay? Not, you're okay. What are you feeling? And whatever they say, you just go, I believe you, and that's the right thing to feel. Even if you don't always have time to handle it, you know, if it's not a good time, that's fine. There are times that I'm like, I'm having to push my kids out of the way, and I'm going, oh yeah, or, you know, we're leaving the park, I'm like, yeah, I see that you're very sad that I'm making you leave the park. Oh yeah, I see that you're very angry. Yes, but we're still going. Yeah. And we don't have time to talk about it. Thanks for showing me your emotion. Okay, let's go. Hop in. Keep feeling your sadness, that's fine, but we're leaving. So, you know, you don't have to change your whole life. It's just a simple thing of saying, oh, is that what you feel? Okay. So yeah, I was about to say, Paul, before you made that good point, and I'm ready to get interrupted a lot because I'm ready for some more questions. But yeah, I wanted to say I think I can get I get excited about the parenting stuff, but I'm trying to not go too far into that because I want to stick to brain health. So to recap, the most important thing is to help your kids stay in a playful mindset. Don't get stuck in the fight or flight. They go into it great, but come back out, balance it out. And whatever they feel, they have permission to feel. Even if you're saying it like this, that's the right thing to feel, I guess. Because it's okay for you to feel whatever you're feeling. If you have to take a break, whatever. It's hard. It's hard being home with kids. It's hard when they're flipping out. And when you're flipping out at the same time, when everybody's triggered, you don't have to do it perfectly. The main thing is everybody feels what they feel, and you recover. You go back to the playful state. You have a do-over. If you want to know more about that, you can ask me about it, but I'm not going to go into too much detail on that.
Amy has her hand up.
So,
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So, is it safe to say that as friends, as caregivers, as self-advocates, is it safe to say that that's something that's important for us to do as well for each other and for ourselves? You know, to say, hey, it's okay to feel overwhelmed, or it's okay to, whatever you're feeling, whether you're talking to yourself or to your friend, your neighbor, your you know, not just your kids, I'm saying.
Well, absolutely. Yes. I think that's the number one thing for being a good friend, basically, you know, to be able to hold space for someone while they're going through their madness or whatever it is that they're feeling. But then biologically, your brain is creating a neural pathway, and you speak your emotion to someone, and when they mirror it to you, when they have kind of the same facial expression, like, oh yeah, I feel that way too, or yeah, I'm so excited for you too, whatever. If they feel that emotion with you and mirror it back to you, boom, the circuit closes and you've got a new neural pathway. But if the person refuses to mirror it back to you, and this has shown up in cases of dementia and Alzheimer's, you can never close the loop. And so you keep all these neural networks open and they're just trying to close. They're just searching, trying to close. And that's how you wind up with brain fog. A lot of connectors trying to go out and they just can't complete. So it's like you have a gazillion windows open in your computer, or a bunch of tabs running and they're all trying to load and you're just like, I can't think. I don't know why I can't remember things.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and so I was going to mention that later. That's an important thing for our kids to mirror whatever when they show us an emotion. It's hard. It's actually hard. I've caught myself getting ready to logic my son out of feeling whatever he's feeling, because he's like, oh, my brother destroyed my Lego creation. And I want to be like, you don't have the right to feel upset because in our house, the rule is Legos are up for grabs. Anyone can take it apart. I had to catch myself and go, well, you're sad about it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I understand. You're bummed. Yeah.
That's gotta improve communication on the back end of the relationship in your house, right?
Oh, it makes things a lot better for kids and as well as friends and adults and self-talk. When you think about every fight you've ever been in, you know how you just keep saying the same thing over and over again just because you want to hear heard. You want to know you're heard.
Right.
And I think so many fights would end if someone just said, and by the way, I don't know how to turn those notifications off, so they're just going to ding. But if someone would just say, I hear you. You're making a good point. I still disagree, but I hear you. You'd be like, okay, and if you just felt respected, you could move on and you wouldn't have to be like, no, listen. I think 90% of fights would end if we just said, I hear you. Yeah. And that makes sense. Maybe you're not wrong. Maybe you are. I still disagree, but yeah. So in general, yeah, it makes everything easier. I'm actually learning it with this one other piece of my life. I'm having to learn to give up on trying to be heard and just let the other person be heard and just say, okay, I hear you. And I'm just going to spend some time mirroring and we're getting into a more peaceful place. I don't want to. I want the other person to be the first to mirror. I want the other person to be the first to hear, but be the bigger person.
So what do you do, or how do you deal when you're interacting with somebody who obviously is not interested in hearing you or understanding? Because I know so many times with brain injuries or just in everyday life, a lot of us encounter somebody who's not at all interested in understanding or even acknowledging your point of view or your struggles.
Well, you're getting into adults, not kids who are dependent on you for their food and shelter. It's a little easier with kids because they're bonded to you and they're going to want to make up. But in the house, like I said, we have the rule, play nice or play alone. And, I'm not. So, and that's how I am with adults too. And I'm like, if we don't play well together, then we need to we need to put the fence out a little further, You can have boundaries right up close to you so that you can be really close to somebody, or you can move your fence really far away and say, if I love you from here, if we have that fence right there, I can love you better. But if you're up close, I can't feel my love for you. I can't be kind. I can't be sensitive. Well, even if you can't be sensitive at all. I had a person like that who I really had to put up some intense boundaries with. And I was like, I literally, well, I'm not going to go into details because this is a public Zoom chat.
It is.
Okay, let me just mention, before we go into more questions, let me mention a couple of ways that we can treatments we can do for our kids. I keep losing my notes here. Okay. All right, with kids, as much as possible, don't push academic proficiency too early, even literacy. If their brains aren't ready, if that part of their brain is not lighting up for it yet, and you force it, they can still learn it, but they'll have to learn in a very circuitous, inefficient way. They'll have to memorize all these jingles and stuff. Their path won't be like, boom, I've got it. Their path will be, I memorized this and then I associate it with that. And then I have this little hack and then, okay, yeah, I got it. I can remember it. But it's the long way and it's not intuitive. It's not the best. My daughter actually couldn't quite master literacy until she was 7. And having studied language acquisition in children, having studied the brain centers and neurolinguistics, I was like, oh, okay, I wish she was a little better. She's really smart. But I was like, I feel a little nervous, but I'm not going to push it. And then suddenly, the part of her brain that decodes symbology just lit up. And she was reading, not only did she learn to read books, but she learned, and she didn't have to go level 1, level 2, level 3. She went straight to like level 5. But she also learned how to read calendars, clocks, maps, road signs, symbology systems, because that part of her brain just was like, we're doing it. And, I just couldn't even stop her. She was self-educating all the way. So if possible, and I mean, if your kids are in school, it's kind of hard because they have to do these standardized tests and everything. But if it's possible, don't push it too early, or, give them a break. And here are some other simple ways to keep the brain and nervous system healing, in addition to the recommendations we're always making about diet and exercise, hyperbaric chambers, particularly if you have a traumatic brain injury that you're healing from. So there's this thing called coherent breathing. And the in-breath is 4 counts. You hold for 5 counts and let it out for 6 counts. That's basically a yawn. Because if you yawn, you're putting yourself into a relaxed state. That's a great way to get yourself back into play. And remember, you can't make any good decisions as long as you're stuck in your brainstem. You're going to come up with terrible decisions. You're going to think of things like fighting or running away or dominating. You're not going to think in alignment with your higher values. So it's a good idea to get yourself out of that, you and your kids. So simulating yawning will help, including like arm movements. Like if you do, there are like yoga stretches that do things like this, and they're really effective at calming your nervous system down because they simulate yawning and stretching. If you just, come on everybody, let's do it. Stretch, relax. Take a deep breathe in, 4 counts. Hold it for 5. Let it out. That feels good. Especially if you vocalize on the exhale, that's a good way to tell your system, everything's fine. No one's trying to kill me right now. We're good. Other things that are healthy for your kids are humming, making eye contact and requiring eye contact, smiling, of course, dancing. There are tapping meditations you can do that are specifically for kids. Like I said before, mirroring. And if you're not good at mirroring, you could set yourself a goal of like, I'm spending 10 minutes with my kid, or my kid's coming to cook while we're doing this activity. My goal is to mirror as much as possible. Or while I'm playing Legos with my kid, or while we're cleaning up today, I'm gonna mirror. Or while I'm listening to stories after picking up my kid from school, and you're not supposed to ask, how was your day? You're supposed to say, did you get to sit with that friend that you were hoping, ask specific questions. And as they're talking, mirror. And my kids and I are doing this thing called Safe and Sound Protocol. It's a bilateral integration. It's an audio thing we're doing. I'm testing it out, and if it turns out to be great, I'm going to recommend it to the group. But it increases neuroplasticity. It helps your brain build a new network, and it integrates the 2 halves of your nervous system. It calms down your vagal nerve, your vagus nerve. It improves vagal tone. It does so much. If you'd be interested in that, I'll probably have more information on it later. And finally, one little thing that I just think is really cool. It's called the cross hug. And you have your kids sit in front of you, and you can do it with adults too. They cross their arms as if they're holding themselves, cross their ankles so that they're, so that's the bilateral integration. And then while they're sitting in front of you, like leaning against you, it's the front of their head and the back. And that instantly calms the nervous system down. It's a nervous system reset. And if you find yourself in a panic attack, it's a great thing for adults too. And I said I was just going to say one more thing, but I'm going to say one more, Paul, and then I'll get to your question.
Oh, go over what you just said again.
Oh, SSP? I mean, the bilateral integration?
Yeah, go through it a little bit slower when you can. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I am flying through these, huh? The heart to heart. So if you and your kids can't figure something out, if you just hug heart to heart, or you can sit them on your lap so that your chests are lined up, just sit there until your electromagnetic field syncs up, and then you can just understand each other. No words needed. You don't have to work it out. You just kind of get in sync again. That's when we do, and when we just don't, I don't know what else to do. Okay, so the bilateral integration. Well, you know, I understand the basic science behind it, but like only enough to talk back in a very jaunty way, because I have not completely digested it.
But the process is to put your hand.
Oh, the hug?
Yeah, say that part again.
Cross your ankles.
Cross your ankles.
Yeah. And then cross your arms like you're hugging yourself. And then another person behind you would put a hand on your forehead and a hand on the back of your head. And that's a nervous system reset.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I find stepping through those life hacks and repeating them is helpful for our brains to understand and comprehend.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I ran through them really quickly, just thinking if you have questions about it, I'll answer them. So y'all, meaning of life is play. Feel all your emotions. Help your kids feel their emotions, and remember, our kids learn more from what we model than from how we treat them. So you're really going to have to model accepting your own emotions and your own physical pain and limitations as well. And, you know, stop bullying yourself. Don't, when you catch yourself saying, such a pansy, or, oh, this again, or whatever, you know, you're just going to have to be gentle. So ask me your questions, or tell me about your lives.
Nichole, can you repeat the name of that book, How to Talk to Kids So They'll Listen?
Yeah, let me see if I got it right. How to Talk So Kids Will Listen, and How to Listen So They'll Talk.
Okay. Thank you.
So good. I don't recommend a lot of parenting books, but I really like that one. Martine, you were going to ask a question?
You have to press the unmute, dear.
Nichole,
Yeah.
it's Melissa
left.
Tate.
Oh, I'm sorry. Melissa was going to talk next, and then I'll listen to Martine. Sorry about that, Martine. Okay, Melissa, go ahead.
What I'm wondering is, you were talking about opening up new neural pathways. How do you do that? Or is there a function that you could recommend with young children, like the age of 3, who've been abused?
Oh, fascinating. Okay, first of all, they're at a great age for neuroplasticity, because it's going to happen regardless.
Well, her speech is delayed, and I think that in all likelihood, it's because of the abuse she suffered.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, but still, like I'm saying, like she could recover, so that's good news. What would you do for her? I would say she's going to have to process the trauma. How is she going to have to process it, though? If she's 3, I would look into, it's the one I'm doing is called integrated systems learning. You can work with counselors who send the audio program. Well, let me see. You can also do play therapy, where she would go and be with the therapist and play with the toys, and you'll find that she acts out stories. What does she do with the baby? How, you know, how does she play with the baby, or what characters does she bring in? And And the
She is in therapy.
Oh, she
She
is?
is in therapy, right. But I'm just trying to figure out something we can do at home to help her as well.
And she's 3 and she's verbally delayed.
And
Well,
she speaks, but she speaks like her own language sort of thing. She comes up with these great sentences, great intonation and everything, but it makes absolutely no sense.
uh, do you think she has a brain injury? Because that does sound like a Wernicke's area, like she was injured in a certain part of her brain.
If she was, we're unaware of that. The physical abuse that she suffered was not to her head, as far as we know.
Okay. Well, you know, wherever her brain had to stop developing so that it could go into fight or flight, it may have quit lighting up in that area. But kids are super neuroplastic, so I wouldn't even push it unless, you know, once she got to like around 5, and she's still not talking, maybe even give it another year, you know, when she's 4. My kids, my first 2 kids, I didn't know my kids, I'm not supposed to give them vaccines because they have a genetic mutation. I didn't know. I just did the regular vaccinations, and they got metal toxicity. So they did have brain damage, and it delayed their speech, but it came. Eventually, it came. So
Okay.
I'm inclined to think it's just going to come. And all the aphasia studies, which is a brain damage, an injury to certain lobes of the brain, in children, they always get their language centers back. They're just super resilient.
Okay.
But for that one, you know, if you want to build resilience, mirroring is so important. And every emotion she has, that's the right emotion to have. Let her finish feeling it. And that's going to help her brain light up and bounce back.
Okay.
But are you seeing a speech therapist, or are you seeing anyone who's familiar with language centers and brain injury?
She goes to a speech therapist.
Okay.
And
Oh, the
OT.
speech therapist would know about it then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can't push it. I mean, I did that with my daughter. I was like, you can't have a bite until you say bus or say bug or say cake or something. And she would try. She'd go, and I'd be like, okay, here's a bite. But she just didn't. She couldn't do it until her brain came online. And at 2.5, she finally started speaking, and it was in her first thing that she said was a full sentence. So it wasn't because she was dumb. It's just she was delayed.
Can
Right.
you talk some more about mirroring? Because I know speech is a very small percentage of communication.
Yeah.
So how else can we mirror?
Well, I know people who manipulate people with it, so I would look out for them. Salesmen learn tricks like whatever posture you have, I would mimic it. So, you know, if you've got your arms crossed, I would cross my arms too. And if you've got a really open posture, I would open my posture to you. I would do the exact same thing. So that's a way to, I know someone who did that, and it makes me very uncomfortable. But I would say the people you love, set an intention to understand whatever they're feeling and feel it with them. And then you're just going to naturally mirror. And if you can't mirror with someone, ask yourself, why aren't you getting along with that person? You know, why can't you sync up? It might not be your fault. It might be that they're withholding. You know, it might be that you're just picking up on a disconnect. Maybe you need to give it some time, and then you would be able to. Amy, you're probably one of the nicest, most generous people I know. And so if there's someone who you're trying to mirror and you're not able to do it, my hunch would be that maybe the disconnect is on their side. If that makes sense.
I have a question. How many of us had a speech issue after our brain injuries, and how long did it take to come back? or has it come back? Rhonda, you want to comment on that, please?
I have a stuttering problem, and when I get really tired, it's really bad. It's really bad.
What does that look like?
I have a problem finding the words, and when I do find the words, I repeat them several times.
Does this happen daily? Does this happen hourly?
It just depends on what's going on. It could happen every once in a while. It could happen once a week. It could happen, you know, it just depends on how much stress I'm under.
But it's searching for the word. It's trying to get to the word.
Right. Right. And then sometimes when I do find the word, it's still getting it to process and actually come out is difficulty.
Because the search engine is running at a very high speed. Now it's your speech engine that needs to kick in and actually get it out of your mouth. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So I don't know if y'all are aware, but the University of Louisiana at Lafayette has a speech communication department that specializes in brain injury.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have a clinic, they have semesters. So they have 3 semesters a year, and they have coffee every first Thursday of the month. It's called Aphasia Center of Acadiana. You might want to write that down. The objective is to retrain the brain to go around. Retrain the brain is the same thing as neuroplasticity, which at 42 years old, I was told, not going to happen, not ever going to happen. I said, watch this.
Yeah.
But Aphasia Center of Acadiana, I think I'm saying it right. If you can't find it, find me. They're on Facebook. Rose Schuff, S-H-U-F-F, runs it. And once a month, they meet for coffee. And guess what they do for coffee? They talk to each other. They literally have a conversation, and caffeine is involved, and sugar's involved. What's not to like? But it's true that you can rewire around that. It's almost like a skipping record. It's like, I found it, and your brain won't stop. It's almost like to me, it was like a jubilation and God, I wish I would stop doing this all at the same time.
Yeah, but you're right. The neuroplasticity, it'll just keep going. I remember I was in Arkansas one time and I saw the road stripes. They went perfectly in the shape over a dead armadillo that was no longer there. And they just kept going. The road crew they just made that stripe over the dead armadillo. They did not move it out of the way. And that's what our brains do. They'll just go around it and make new connections. And that thing will be logged in there. You don't have to go back and heal it sometimes. Your brain just goes, that's okay, we'll just leave that place and go make some more stuff. What's that?
Another thing that I learned that I can share with Rhonda about being playful, that word was a hard word for me to swallow, ha, ha, ha. I had my brain injury through choking. That's why I laughed, but it was pulling back because I was pushing hard into it, trying to find the word. And all of a sudden I was now easing back to say, okay, I can't say the word dictation, but if I put an A or an O in front of the word that starts with a D, it pursed my lips. It kicked me into a playful mode. So I would say, dictation I'm doing. Nobody knew the difference, but I pursed my lips in a different shape because it was skipping on the D. It was tripping on the D. And believe it or not, I learned this from the movie called The King's Speech because he had bad stuttering problems. But if he got angry, his diction was perfect. Only if he got furious, which made me scratch my head. But this guy that wanted to help him out put an A in front of between, so you won't say between. And you're the only person that's going to know it. Nobody else is going to know it. And I'm so grateful that that movie that I was watching, tears streaming down my face because I lost my job. They taught that little snippet in this 2-hour movie taught me, yes, I can go around in a playful manner. But the more I tried, and the more upset I got, which brings about twists and turns and knots. And being a child, I can only imagine having that bulkhead to slam against. No, and I'm grateful for this topic. Thank you, Nichole. Kim, we haven't heard from you much. You still with us?
I am. I've been on a listening streak. You know those times where you feel like you need to listen a lot more than you speak?
Amen.
I'm at that point of quarantine. But no, I love this topic, and I've been really reflecting on it because, you know, brain injury, we talk about it so much as this physical thing, and now my understanding as I'm learning so much more is it's not only physical brain injury, also, you know, it can happen through traumas and things like that, which, you know, logically I understood before, but whenever you're surrounded and you're going deeper with, you know, people with brain injury, and, you know, it makes you realize how much, it made me realize how much, how close to home that all these things are. Because as Nichole was talking about, you know, not allowing kids to feel their feelings, you know, it's so true. My mom was very high on she was overly optimistic. And I read this recently about toxic optimism. And I was like, how can optimism be toxic? But now I know is because it's more toxic to me growing up, because I wasn't allowed to feel the not light feelings, emotions, you know? So it's like this toxic optimism that it's not a good emotion if it's not something that is on the positive side, you know, and that can really hinder the way that people cope with things, and, you know, the way that we function, the way that I function.
Yeah, I'd love to say something about that, the negative emotions. What I tell my kids is everyone creates a certain amount of emotional waste every day, the same way we create a certain amount of physical waste. And the same way that you want to flush the physical waste, it's not bad that you do, it's good, it's healthy. Everyone puts this out. You flush it away from your home because you don't want the flies around as they're decomposing that. In the same way, we all create a certain amount of emotional waste, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, we push it out of the house. We just go, oh, okay, well, every time I got angry, every time I screamed, every time I was impatient, okay. And we send it all out, and then we dump it into the compost pile. And it's kind of fun because as we do this, I think it's important to have that kind of ritual every day. And that's what a lot of people do in their prayer time, their forgiveness time.
For me, it was meditation, yeah.
Yeah, you need to have some kind of ritual where you go, yeah, I did that. Yeah, that happened. I felt that happened. And now we're done with it. And you release it. Just to clear, you can feel it. You can feel the difference as you're doing it. But yeah, so the negative emotions, I feel like strict parents, they just kind of say, don't feel it. And so it would be the equivalent of potty training children. You teach them what to do with their waste. Yes, you have it. Here's where you put it, and now flush it. But really strict parents or authoritarian parents would be like, you don't have emotions. All you can say is, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. You just need to obey and have a good attitude about it. That's how I was raised, actually. And so I was just like, what do I do with the negatives? I don't know. And I had to figure out as an adult.
Yeah.
And I find that permissive parents on the other, oh, I'm sorry, Kim. I'll just finish saying this. Permissive parents will manipulate their kids or just avoid any conflict so that their kids are never allowed to feel negative emotions. Or if they do feel negative emotions, those parents will be like, oh, it's just a blood sugar crash or something. You know, they just need a snack. They're just hungry. They need a nap. And so, again, the kids don't know how, oh, is that what your mom did? So once again, the kids don't learn how to handle their emotional waste and how to take responsibility for it, clean up after themselves, make amends with people, things like that. Yeah. What were you going to say, Kim?
I love that about the daily practice, the daily ritual behind it. And I like that you said that, because now it's like I really have been working with Nolan, my 1.5-year-old, and acknowledging that it is okay to able to feel big emotions at 1.5. And I speak to him and explaining, because our words have an energetic charge, even though logically he may not understand, he can still feel the energy from my words, and then allowing him to feel all that, and then coming back with him and showing him what it looks like to be able to come back and really digest it. But I love how you say that about getting the waste out, because it is, like you said, we create waste metabolically. So why not be able to do the same with emotional waste?
Mhm.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And really, I think emotional intelligence is one of the things that's blocking us from being intelligent citizens as an entire nation. I think we don't even know what we want. So we don't even know when we're voting for something we want. It's so easy for us to get brainwashed and gaslit and caught up in this or caught up in that, just caught up in arguments that don't matter, instead of, what I really want is to make progress and to unite with people. So I think if we, I kind of want to say everyone is brain damaged, a little brain damaged. Like if you fit in really well in a country that doesn't make progress very well and doesn't really share the power well, you probably are in a system that's been a government that's been kind of abusive and kind of like a gaslighting parent for a long time. And the voters don't really know what they're feeling, and they don't know what to do with their negative emotions, and they take it out on each other instead of doing productive forward movement. Not sorry to get political, Paul.
No, it's quick how this real small little issue called brain injury becomes political quick, because how many brains are there in the world? And how many brains are influencing, and how many brains are, I call it distracting. It's like, no, what you need to see is over here. This is my face, but stay over here. This one's what you're going to get. And just keep your eyes on this square right here, and magic's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I tell you about the calls that I get. It's probably therapy, but I think I've heard every theory as to where this coronavirus came from. And no, I'm not asking to go into those, but in 10 days, I had plenty of conversations surrounding distractions. Cough into your arm, keep your hands clean, stay home as best you can. Those are 3 things that we can do. We can't rearrange history and say, we'll go, fuss at them. I'm more enthused and enthralled in being playful, because I need my brain to last as long as it's supposed to last. What about you?
Well, I'm sorry, I missed what you were saying. My 5-year-old came in with a bobo. Speaking of which, I should go pretty soon. I just put on a movie to, turn them into zombies for a little while, but they're sort of waking up.
Does anybody else have anything that they like to share?
And you're welcome to get in touch with me later if you have questions, or anyone who's watching this video in the future, you can get in touch with me and email me at nicholestanford@gmail.com. It's spelled NICHOLESTANFORD@gmail. And yeah, anybody else want to add something or ask anything?
I just wanted to add one thing real quick.
Wait, let Martine go, because she was waiting. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I always enjoy when I hear you because it makes sense of everything, including my memory. And what I love about that lockdown is that life is simpler, and I can like you were mentioning earlier, when Alzheimer's is too many files open, and now it's a little simpler because I have a hard time organizing. You touch so many things I could have written down But I'll just bring one thing. So my daughter has a 5-month-old baby, and her dad died 2 months ago. And she's definitely going what most people I believe are taught to do, the vaccine route. And I have the same mutation that you were mentioning. I have it from both parents. So I could only express it. And then here I have to focus on remembering living my life. But it's a lot of information. Thank you for taking the time to do that for all of us. Thank you. All right.
You're so welcome. And I want to mention one more thing about dementia. People with dementia and Alzheimer's and who can't close the loops or who have intense brain fog, often you will find in their history there was a person who heavily was gaslighting them, negating their emotions. Or if they said, I have a tummy ache, the person would say, well, you're just trying to get attention. You're making such a problem. So there was probably some psychological abuse if you have heavy brain fog. Yes?
Real
Paul?
quick, you mentioned the word gaslighting. I wasn't aware of it until a couple of weeks ago. Can you go through a scenario like I'm complaining about my speech, or I'm complaining about my whatever it is? How would you gaslight that? I'm trying to understand the concept.
Okay, I got another Bobo to kiss.
Okay.
Oh, oh, he loves getting it on the camera. Hi. This is Giuseppe. Mwah. Okay, so gaslighting, it's generally like let's say you're feeling a negative emotion, and I would say, Paul, you're just trying to get attention, hush, or something like that. Or
it happens so much in brain injury. Okay.
Or another, you can gaslight in other ways, like hiding things from people, and then they say, where's my whatever, and you go, oh, I don't know, I guess maybe you're going crazy, maybe you're losing memory. Okay. It comes from the movie about gaslighting, making someone feel like they're crazy, and directly findings. I never said that. No, I never said that. You remember wrong. I don't know what's wrong with you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation.
Oh, and Julia had a question or wanted to say something.
Well, real quick on the gaslighting, I think a lot of times a lot of people don't even realize it's happening until they get 10 years into it, and they can look back at the beginning and see a pattern of it and how much they have changed because this is being done to them.
Yeah, that's the nature of it. Exactly. And you don't realize until you get to that point where you have so much brain fog that something is seriously happening. And I would say be cautious how you handle Santa with kids because of that, because I think we gaslight our kids. We go, you don't trust me? You should believe me. Or you don't believe in Santa. Why would you have any doubts? That's a major way we don't mirror our children. And I think you could just go, yeah, maybe you're right, and just don't shame them for doubting, just say, oh yeah, well, everybody has questions. Well, I guess we'll know one day, things like that. But don't be like, how could you? Yeah, I do think that's gaslighting.
The other thing that I wanted to say was a couple months ago when I was there, I talked about Dr. Daniel Amen and his work and all that stuff, and just kind of keep his family in your prayers because his dad died on Tuesday of this week.
Oh, that. Wow. He must be going through a lot.
So we've come to an hour and 22 minutes before I stop recording. Thank you so much, Nichole. Thanks for the participation of everybody on the call.
Yeah, thank you.
We will do another, you're welcome. We will do another Zoom call for our next meeting, June 1st, where Kim will jump in and she'll talk about lots of different topics we've talked about. I think it's anger. So stay tuned for that. Oh, there you are. And this brain injury group is a lot different than most because we talk about how we can find our new normal and what people, therapies that we can access to right our own ship to get ourselves into homeostasis, get ourselves into a healthier lifestyle.
That's the word. Homeostasis, that's the word. You did it, Paul. You did it. You did it.
uh,
I have 11 letters.
I got this pen as a result of playing playfully saying homeostasis. That's awesome.
It's 11 letters.
So the challenge between Nichole and I is she talks to kids all day. So when I text her, I have to include an 11-letter word just to be adult, just to have an adult sentence. But anyway, thank you for your participation and joining. It's great to see your faces. We're almost there, a couple more weeks, and we might be able to maybe go into the same room at the same time, but patience is a virtue, right? Being playful, loving your kids, accepting them where they are, all that's good stuff.
And feel your emotions.
And we'll leave it at that. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Be well.
Bye. Looking forward to hearing you, Kim.
Thank you. I enjoyed it today. Thank you so much.
I can't wait to meet you in person.
I know.
I can't wait to see everybody. Bye, y'all.
See you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Martine. Maybe I'll see you in the park.
Thank you. I know we will meet again.
Yes.
A bientôt.
Au revoir. À bientôt.
And then there was us. All right, I'm going to close it. Bye, y'all.